Alright, you need to be here. I don't forget that too.
Professional life, but I'm trying this down here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Change the time. Instead of.
Just put this one. I'll just. But you need to read the page. Oh, not that. No. Oh, right. Yeah, it is. There's one. Right. I must have. Yeah, you are missing things. Okay.
My pocket.
So you did it. And it's still on the CP. That's just one thing.
Today.
Yeah.
It's already over.
Yeah,
Yes, noticeably more.
I believe it.
Supposed to have your head. Noticeably more.
but it's not missing.
It's not. It was missing over there.
Yes, yes, yes,
An organ sound. Okay. Oh, yeah, oh. The other one. Temporary. Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I thought it. I was wondering if I could get to. I'm not sure I know where.
Trying, like, you wanna like add a chime to the piano.
No, just with the whole thing.
Oh,
I think it comes right.
so I think it's more than. So, what about 126, what about the live one grad? Oh, yeah, you can just. Yeah, oh, right. So what? Sorry. I could always try it.
Is it time? Is it time? Oh, it is.
I forgot about the picnic table. You all okay down there? You don't mind? So much. It does look like. Favorite is David. And I said it looks like something that they're not. Be aware.
But it's my house. Yes, yes. So we don't have programs. I just know it.
Yeah.
I didn't pull it up. Listen, I don't know.
No idea about that place. I would say, I'll say maybe we should.
I'm sure they.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Claire Allwater. And, is that any better? Do I need to lean forward? Thank you. My name is Claire Allwater. And I'm supposed to give you a description. I'm a lovely woman, attractive, gracious, kind. And I'm very glad to be here. Please welcome to First Unitarian Church at Edwards Park. Our mission is to, you know the script. Our mission is explore the eternal, nurture community, pursue the common good. We welcome you in your brokenness and in your wholeness, no matter who you have been, who you are becoming. We greet you today with love. I'd like to extend a special welcome to everyone who is watching us on YouTube this morning. I hope you're out there and warm, comfortable. During the prelude, please introduce yourself in the comments and let us know where you are joining us from. If you're in OKC, what neighborhood are you in? Or if you're elsewhere, what city are you in? And now the prelude prepares us for worship.
We light the chalice as a symbol of our sacred time together. The burning chalice represents the light of reason and science, the warmth of loving community, the cleansing heat of justice, and the flame of hope.
Again, welcome, intrepid ones. It's supposed to keep getting warmer. I was actually grateful I went to sleep with thunder still crashing around, and when I woke up at about 5:30, it had stopped. And so I thought, well, I guess maybe we're good to go. And here we are. Thanks so much for coming. I am Reverend Sue Redfern Campbell, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. For those in our community who may be blind or visually impaired, I am a short white woman with short brown and gray hair. I am bundled up today, wearing blues and greens and a multicolored stole. And you see that I've got my cane with me today, as usual. Here at First Unitarian, there is a commitment to sharing pronouns and offering self-descriptions as part of the effort to ensure that no one is excluded from full participation in the life of our church. And now we have a special announcement from the auction committee.
You can do it, Miss Peg.
If you haven't been on the auction website, you better get on it and start bidding, because I've got some pretty good bids on there, and you can outbid me if you want. I might have to fight you, but that's okay.
We've got dinners, we've got theater tickets, we've got museum tickets, we've got food, pies, bread, cookies. We have
Parties,
Yeah,
lots of parties. And the biggest party is Saturday night, Saturday, May 4th, right?
May 4th at 6 o'clock. It's our auction de mayo.
Uh-huh. So be there, 6 o'clock. Food will be, there'll be snacks available, and then, or snacks provided and drinks available.
Like sangria.
Sangria, alcoholic and non-alcoholic sangria will be available.
And all sorts of tasty Mexican tasty treats.
Yes. So Saturday, now the online auction ends Friday.
At
So-
10 p.m.
Yeah, so be sure and get your bids in.
So bid often. You got to keep checking it, because somebody might try to outbid you, just like Becky said.
That's right. So also, there's an online, a live auction Saturday night too. So we'll have the party and the live auction for some of our bigger items.
Oh, and we also have two mission items this year. We have two very important things. One is voice, and that is to pay our dues for the year, which is 1% of our
Budget.
budget,
Operating
yes,
budget.
1% of our operating budget. And then we have, like, look over there, we have a playground that we need to get going on. And so that costs money, money, money for the equipment and the toys that the kids would love to see happen. So 2 choices, bid on both or donate to both of them. But we need you to participate.
We need your donations and we need your bids. Thank you.
And remember, this is a fun fundraiser. Okay.
We're at 8,700 so far, so.
All right. All right. Thank you. Yay.
A way to warm ourselves if we wish. And I learned this in an online yoga class during COVID. We can rub our hands together and just get that energy going. And then we can put our hands to whatever needs warming, our face, our heart, and keep warming our hands. And I invite you also to take a deep breath, let go of whatever is getting in the way of just being present. Let the traffic noise just be. We can't do much to control it, so just let it go. Be here now. It is good to see you. And our centering words come from Rumi, who in the Sunday school is this month's superhero. Today, like every other day, we wake up empty and scared. Don't open the door of your study and begin reading. Take down the dulcimer. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. So our opening hymn is Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. And that is part of Children's Chapel every Sunday. And we'll sing all 5 verses.
Let her rejoice and be. Let her rejoice and come in. They will be our joy. Let her rejoice and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song.
So the reading this morning comes from Ann Herbert, who was one of the leading lights of the early environmental movement, and she was particularly involved in the Whole Earth catalog, which I think is still going on. Ann Herbert died a few years ago, and I scoured the internet looking for some copyright information for this and didn't find any. So if anyone happens to hear this and knows anything about that, just let me know and we'll be in touch with the copyright holder. In the beginning, God didn't make just one or two people, but made a bunch of us. Because God wanted us to have a lot of fun. And God said, you can't have a lot of fun unless there's a whole gang of you. So God put us in this sort of playground park place called Eden and told us to enjoy. So at first we did have fun, just as God expected. We rolled down the hills, waded in the streams, climbed on the trees, swung on the vines, ran in the meadows, frolicked in the woods, hid in the forest, and acted silly. We laughed a lot. And then one day, this snake told us that we weren't having real fun because we weren't keeping score. Back then, we didn't know what score was. When the snake explained it, we still couldn't see the fun. But he said we should give an apple to the person who was best at playing, and we'd never know who was best without keeping score. We could all see the fun of that because we all thought we were best. But it was different after that. We yelled a lot. We had to make up new scoring rules for most of the games. Other things like frolicking, we stopped playing because they were too hard to score. By the time God found out what had happened, we were spending about 45 minutes a day actually playing, and the rest of the time working out the score. God was wroth about this, very, very wroth. God said we couldn't use the garden anymore because we weren't having fun. We told God we were having lots of fun. It wasn't exactly the kind of fun God had in mind, but why be narrow-minded about it? God wouldn't listen, but kicked us out of the garden and said we couldn't come back until we stopped keeping score. To rub it in, to get our attention, God told us we were all going to die anyway, and our scores wouldn't mean anything. God was wrong. My cumulative all-time score now is 16,548, and that means a lot to me. If I can raise it to 20,000 before I die, I'll know I've accomplished something. Even if I can't, my life has a great deal of meaning because I've taught my children to score high, and they'll be able to reach 20,000 or even 30,000. Really, it was life in the garden that didn't mean anything. Fun is great in its place, but without scoring, there's no reason for it. God has a very superficial view of life, and I'm glad my children are being raised away from that influence. We were all lucky to get out. We're all very grateful to the snake. And here ends the reading.
Well, good morning. My name is Tim Atkins, and I serve as your Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration. So this is a time of the service where I would usually do a story time for all ages. but it feels silly to do a story about playing when we're at a park. So instead of a time for all ages today, we're having a playtime for all ages today. All right. So for the next 10 minutes or so, I invite you to maybe get up out of your chair. We got some activities that you can choose from in the back. We got, from things like decks of cards and games and puzzles to chalk if you want to draw some chalk on the cement. You can walk around the park and take a look at the beautiful lake or the playground or go play on the playground, folks of all ages. But we want, in a service about frolicking, to give you time to frolic. It seemed to make sense. If you're joining us online, I invite you to spend the next 10 minutes or so either playing a game in the chat or maybe playing an online game or even solitaire. But find a way to frolic amongst yourself for the next 10 minutes or so, and we'll call you back. But it's time for playtime in the park. Go forth and play. All right. I know you're going to go away. Your playtime. Have you ever played with snack sticks? Have you ever played with these?
So people don't.
Yeah, they're frequency pipes are resonate at different frequencies. Yeah, we'll set it up. So you want to play around with them?
So the people on YouTube for looking to. I think they should be.
Oh, my God.
This is your 2-minute frolicking lunch. Okay? 2 minutes, we will continue back the service. Well, I hope you enjoyed our frolicking time. So we actually have this park pavilion reserved until 2 p.m. if you are wanting to do some frolicking after the service. But for now, our service will continue. Thank you all. I have no idea. Every Sunday, let me get this a little top. Every Sunday, we take an offering. Since 2002, all cash and designated checks from the offering have gone directly to external nonprofit organizations doing good work in our community, our Change for Change partners. For the month of April, our Change for Change partner is the Third Space Foundation for Juneteenth on the East Festival. The Third Space Foundation grew out of the Third Space, a co-working and community building environment in Norman, Oklahoma. Dr. Suzette Grillett founded the Third Space in the summer of 2019. Their mission is to create an empowering and supportive third place where all individuals feel safe and welcomed. Our contribution to the Third Space Foundation enables us to be sponsors of the Juneteenth on the East Festival. For those of you who are in Edwards Park with us today, in just a moment, we'll be passing the offering box. We know that many of you prefer to mail in a check or make your donations to Change for Change online. You can always make your gift by mailing a check to First Unitarian, just write Change for Change on the memo line, or make an online payment through our website, oneuc.org. And now the offering will be taken and gratefully received.
I have the opportunity today to provide you with a reflection. And this is what I've got. Most likely, many of you have heard the expression, oh, someone's gotten up on the wrong side of the bed. It implies that you are in a bad mood and irritable. This can cast the tone of your entire day, making you expect that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Rather like the beloved picture book, Alexander in the Terrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. So this is how it starts. I went to sleep with gum in my mouth, and now there's gum in my hair. And when I got out of bed this morning, I skateboard, and by mistake, I dropped my sweater in the sink while the water was running, and I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. At breakfast, Anthony found a Corvette Stingray car kit in his breakfast cereal box, and Nick found a junior undercover agent code ring in his breakfast cereal box. But in my breakfast cereal box, all I found was breakfast cereal. I think I'll move to Australia. So, and the book goes on. And this can, sometimes happen. So as a child, if I clumped downstairs in the morning and I didn't smile and I didn't say good morning to my mother, she would say, well, someone's gotten up on the wrong side of the bed. And I will say that negativity usually followed me the whole way during the day, and it could even rub off on other people. So when that happens, something has to change. You can give yourself a good talking to. I had to do that just a couple of days ago. There was nothing really wrong, but I was just out of sorts and feeling a little sorry for myself. So I finally said to myself, what is wrong with you, Claire? And so I said to myself, just look how blessed you are. And just being alive is a pretty big blessing. And being alive in fellowship, like today with all of us, is a pretty big blessing too. But recognizing and appreciating blessings doesn't mean you're necessarily happy. So I thought to myself, okay, what makes me feel happy? So here's my list, and I bet there's the same as yours. My family, close friends, a good belly laugh, a hot cup of coffee to start the day, sometimes towards evening, a glass of wine. Oops, let me juggle my pages. It's windy. All right. Favorite foods like chocolate and oranges. Kenny Rogers, when he sings to me, because I tell Alexa to do so. My house, especially when it's clean and tidy. My yard. my dog care, a rescue that I've had for about 5 months. And lastly, what makes me happy is when I actually tackle my good intentions list, like getting back to drawing and painting, or going through boxes of slides from my dad, or back when my husband and I first got married in the 60s and he took lots of slides. But what would make me most happy is taking time to frolic. Yet how often do we really make time to frolic, to play? Kids have the market on this, and maybe we should emulate them. I get to observe frolicking firsthand every Sunday when I teach Sunday school for grades 2 through 4 with co-teachers Elizabeth Mueller and my daughter Amy. These kids love to laugh and love to play. Frolicking is their forte. I always feel better after spending time with these kids, and the occasional hug, icing on the cake, especially from little boys. So you may want to consider team teaching Sunday school in the fall. We start by lighting our chalice candles and saying we are Unitarian Universalists. We are the church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. And together we care for the earth and work for friendship and peace around the world. Now, do I think Sunday school benefits our children? Absolutely. We always share our joys and sorrows. We go around the table. It's really interesting. And then we discuss our lesson topic, sharing our thoughts about it, and making something or doing something related to the lesson, and then we play. They get to frolic together with enthusiasm and joy. I think we are doing a wonderful service for the children of our church, and that makes my heart very happy. Is it a responsibility and a commitment? Yes, but it is so worth it.
For our meditation today, I'd like to introduce a body prayer. Some of you may be familiar with it, but it's just a brief nonverbal prayer. I will lead it. I will cue you through it, but first maybe we want to warm ourselves up again, and of course, you can do that anytime during the service. So for this prayer, we start in what I think of as the Namaste position, or prayer position. And then we lift our hands to the sky or to the roof of the pavilion. Imagine you're lifting them to the sky. And then when they can't stay together anymore because they're too high, we can just open our arms and take in all the love of the universe and all the love around us. And then we can take all that love and bring it down to refresh the love in our hearts. And then just to remind us to be in the present moment, we can just one clap, the sound of two hands clapping, right? And then back in the Namaste position and bow, creating the divine within and the divine without and the divine all around us. So you're welcome to stay seated for this. You're also welcome to stand up and we'll just go through it once. So first, centering ourselves, our hands in the namaste position. And then raising our hands high until they have to separate. We open our arms and we take in all the love of the universe. And bring it into our hearts. Oh, and then we can put our hands out, blessing everyone around us, blessing the world. And then reminding ourselves that we're in the present moment. So be it. Amen. Blessed be. Y'all go home. She was so funny. So at solstice time, some years ago, I went on a week-long retreat. It was in Vancouver on the beautiful campus of the University of British Columbia. And one of the elements of this retreat was a full day of silence from Saturday evening till 24 hours later. And frankly, I wasn't looking forward to it. It sounded like an ordeal to stay silent for 24 hours. But Don, the program's director, encouraged us to think of the silence as a gift. Go anywhere you want, do anything you want, just do it in silence. Well, that helped me relax into it at least a little bit. After Vespers, we dispersed. It was a beautiful, long solstice evening, so I decided to take a walk. And the first thing to catch my attention was a tree, a very tall, very full evergreen tree. I had passed it dozens of times before without paying it much heed, but this night was different. The tree seemed to beckon, notice me, it seemed to say. And so I stopped and, well, noticed. I noticed its height, its fullness, its deep, deep greenness. Yes, you are a beautiful tree, I acknowledged, silently, of course. But that wasn't the end of it. As I stood there, it occurred to me there was something kind of comical about this tree. Rather than being neat and sedate and symmetrical, it was asymmetrical and a bit droopy. Its branches were pointing every which way, and they absolutely dripped with green cones. And as I stood there regarding this tree, peals of laughter welled up within me, joyful laughter, not at the tree, but with the tree. And not only laughter, but a deep sense of communion. And that was pretty much the way it went for the next 24 hours. I roamed the campus, overwhelmed by the sheer extravagance of it all. Everywhere there was mirth. Everywhere there was ecstasy. The finale came at supper time. As I sat on the lawn outside the student union, I watched 3 crows fighting over an abandoned, half-eaten box of onion rings. They made an elegant game of it. One crow would sneak up on another and snatch one of the onion rings, and then the other would give chase, cawing in indignation, caw, caw. And then the third crow would take the lead and the game would start all over again. And as I watched and laughed, I felt deep inner healing from 60-hour work weeks and too long to-do lists. And in that moment, an idea took root. At the heart of life is play. In the midst of creation, we are called to play, to laugh, to enjoy, to frolic. Play and laughter are not a pleasant distraction making so-called reality bearable. Rather, they lie at the core of reality. Now, I hasten to add this idea is not original with me. All we have to do is look at Western scriptural traditions and then beyond. In the Bible, there's the vision of the heavenly banquet in the Hebrew prophets. There's the erotic poetry of the Song of Solomon, and even the Sabbath command in the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments. And then there's Jesus. As far as anyone can tell, he never turned down an invitation. Never turned down an invitation to supper or to a wedding or to a party. He preached that the Sabbath is meant to be enjoyed. It wasn't a grim obligation. And over in his parables, the message was, the kingdom of God is a party. Now, if you grew up in a Christian church, I'm just speaking for myself here, was this the message you received? Or did you learn something closer to what I think of as the gospel of Aesop? Or maybe I should say the Gospel of Aesop according to capitalism. The English translations take liberty with Aesop's very terse Greek. Well, is this the message you received growing up? I think the fable of the ant and the grasshopper is an example of an Aesop's fable. The grasshopper plays and sings all summer long, while the ant industrially gathers food. When winter comes, the grasshopper is near death, asks the ant for help. But the ant turns the grasshopper away. Since you were foolish enough to sing all summer, you must dance supperless to bed in the winter. That's the way one translation has it, probably not Aesop's. Now, on one level, this fable is true to nature. It turns out we've all watched ants relentlessly gathering food, and grasshoppers do not usually overwinter. When it gets cold, they die and leave their eggs behind. But if this is a teaching fable, what does it teach? And do we really want the ant as a role model? English writer Catherine May remembers, even as a child, I remember being outraged by the ant's behavior. I still feel the shock of it now, the brutality of those ants and the simple need of the grasshopper for food. And she goes on, it struck me that the ants had missed a great opportunity to make a productive trade. The entertainment of a singing grasshopper while they worked in return for a small amount of food in the winter. Anglo-American culture is clearly skewed to the ant side of the equation. In her book, The Overworked American, Juliet Shore points out that in the late 50s, the 4-day work week was thought to loom on the immediate horizon. And there was hand-wringing, what would Americans do with all that spare time they had? By the 1970s and beyond, this was a non-issue. And by the 90s, 9 hours, a full day of work plus, had been added to the average work week. People complained, quite understandably, about the lack of free time. And there are lots of problems with overwork, starting with sleep deprivation. That's a medical issue, of course, but it's also a spiritual one when we lose perspective, or when we're working for the wrong reasons, or when our lives are fueled by workaholism. Some people say that workaholism is a healthy addiction, but in the long term, it can be just as deadening as alcoholism or drug addiction. So if overwork is in our bones, we may have to put time for play, time for frolicking on our date books, our calendars. We may need to schedule time for things that are totally unproductive with no redeeming social value. We might even think about cultivating Sabbath consciousness, weaving Sabbath into every day and even every hour. With Sabbath consciousness, our work can be play. It can even be prayer. So I'll leave you to think about how things are at First Unitarian Church. I've just been here a few weeks, and so I don't really know, but I'll remind us that as faith communities, we're called to embody visions of what the world could be, to be the change we want to see. And so as a religious community, we can be careful not to fall into lockstep with workaholic culture. We can weave playfulness in all that we do together. And I've sensed that y'all are pretty good at that. We can also make sure that no one is carrying more than their share of the load, and that everybody in the church has a chance to frolic. If we do this, we'll be part of what the rabbis called tikkun olam, the healing and repair of the world. And we'll also have a lot of fun together, just like God intended. So please join in our closing hymn, number 128, For All That Is Our Life. And please share hymnals if you've got one and somebody beside you does not have one. Please share it.
For some we must bear. For each new thing we learn. As we come for our life, thanks and praise for is our gift.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of love and community which burns in our heart. Thank you so much for coming out today, for bearing with us as we got used to being in an outdoor space, for braving the uncertain weather. And it's wonderful to see you all. And thanks for those online for joining us as well. So our benediction comes once again from Rumi, one of the holy troublemakers. We have fallen into the place where everything is music. The strumming and the flute notes rise into the atmosphere, and even if the whole world's harp should burn up, there will still be hidden instruments playing. So the candle has flickered and gone out, but we still have a piece of flint and a spark. Go in peace. Mm-hmm.